Hello friends, and welcome to this crochet tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make this duck drawstring bag. We have our little duck look here on the front, and at the top we have our drawstring opening. Simple, fun, and I'm sure the kids will love it. So come join me as we make this duck drawstring bag together. Let's get started. The materials and the tools we will use. Here I have Red Heart Super Saver in the color bright yellow. I have Red Heart Super Saver in orange. I have Deborah Norville Premier Yarns in the color pink. Pair of scissors, tapestry needle. We'll only need one stitch marker, and the hook we're going to use is a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. We will also be using safety eyes with a glitter back and black yarn for the mouth and for the facial details. So before we begin, the base of our bag is made with 2 strands. So what I'm encouraging you to do, unless you have a second skein with you, take the cover off. You have the outside one, and the other one comes from the center. Go ahead and join both of those together. Let's place a magic circle, and then we will begin. So let's start with our magic circle. We're going to start with a tail about 6 to 8 inches long. This will be used for weaving in later, because a magic circle does not hold the stitches if you cut it close. So here I crisscrossed it over my fingers. Take the hook and go underneath. Bring the top one through the center of the ring, and then bring the yarn over. Sometimes the tail gets twisted with the ring. Let's go ahead and straighten that out. I like to make my first one here tight on my ring, and then I'm going to take the chain stitch or the loop that's on the hook and enlarge it just a little bit. It makes it easier for when we're going to join this to complete our round to start our second row. We will be going in a spiral. So on our magic ring, we're going to place 6 half double crochets. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through all 3 on our hook. Let's do that for a total of 6 times. When we've added all 6, double check your count to make sure that you have what you need. Take your finger and your thumb and pinch the last 2 stitches, and then take our tail and let's pull the ring closed. Don't pull it closed tight just yet, so that we can still get into that first stitch. So into that first stitch, which is right here, let's place 2 half double crochets. So yarn over and into that first chain stitch, pull up a loop. Here's 1, and here's 2. Now before we move on, here's the 2 we just added to that first stitch. Let's take our stitch marker. I'm right-handed, so on the right side of that first stitch is the chain, that is specifying that that's the first, that goes to the first stitch. So let's put our stitch marker in. Okay, we have 2 stitches so far. We're going to add 2 half double crochets to the rest of the row, which is 5. So we will have a total of 12 half double crochets before we hit our stitch marker. Your last set of stitches will be in the chain right here, this stitch, before the stitch marker. So I'm going to show you the next 2, and then I'm going to pause my video so that you can go on and do the total of 12 for this first row. Now you'll notice that if you did not pull your magic ring tight at the beginning, you will have a hole. So let's take our hook and enlarge the loop so we can pull our hook out, flip it over, and then pinch your work and pull hard. Not so hard you break the yarn, but pull it hard enough that it'll pull it closed. Do not cut it. We'll weave it in a few more rows because we're going to weave around here and then come up in here. So just let this hang for right now. Okay, so let's take out our stitch marker. In that stitch that we just pulled out, let's place 1 half double crochet. Okay, so before we move on, let's go ahead and place the stitch marker into that first half double crochet. This will start our second row. Remember, I told you we're going in a spiral, so we're not going to be joining rows, we're going to be continuing with rows. Our next stitch, we will place 2 half double crochets. This will be the increase so that this circle will lay flat. So here's 1 and 2. Our repeat for this row will be 1 half double crochet in 1 single stitch, 2 half double crochets in the next single stitch. So let's repeat this again. In the next stitch, 1 half double crochet. In the next stitch, 2 half double crochet. Okay, so continue this around, the 1 in one and the 2 in the next, all the way around. When you get to this last stitch, just before your stitch marker, you should have 2 half double crochets in there. Go ahead and continue around, 1 and then 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Please pause your video and I will meet you there. I hope you found that easy, because what we're going to start doing now is we're going to be increasing the single half double crochets in amount and also include a double. So for this row, let's take out our stitch marker. Let's do 1 half double crochet, replace our stitch marker, in the next stitch 1 half double crochet, and in the next stitch marker 2 half double crochet. Okay, so this is our increase as well as with the increase. So we got 2 singles and a double. So single half double crochet, single half double crochet, 2 in that one stitch. So this is our repeat for this row. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. When you get to your stitch, before your stitch marker, you will have 2 half double crochets right there. So continue around, 1, 1, and then 2. Please pause your video and I'll meet you there. Now, in case you're questioning, why are we using 2 strands? Because it is getting a little stiff. 2 strands help with that stiffness. When you have the bottom of the bag and the sides, we want it to maintain its shape. When we get to the top, we will use just 1 strand of yarn, and it'll make it so that the drawstring will close it with no problem. But we do want to maintain a shape and have the sturdiness of the bag. So I hope that answers your question as to why we're using 2 strands and it seems really stiff. So let's move on to the next round. So we remove the stitch marker, and in this first stitch, 1 half double crochet. Okay, and let's go ahead and replace the stitch marker. Okay, so we have 1. Remember the last row we did 2, so this row we're going to do 3. 1, 2, 3 singles. 1, 2, 3. Let me pull some more yarn out. And then in the next stitch, we'll do a double. We'll do 2 in the one stitch. 1, 2. Okay, so this is the repeat for this row. 1, 1, 1, and then 2 in the next stitch. So 3 singles and a double over those 4 stitches. 1, 1, 1, and then 2. And we'll do that all the way around until we hit our stitch marker. So here's 1, 1, 1, 3 ones, and then the 2 in that next stitch. All right, continue around. I'll meet you at the end of this row. We've built up to 3 single half double crochets and then a double. So for the next row, we'll do 4 with a double. The following row, we'll do 5 with a double, 6 with a double, and 7 with a double. When we get to the 7th row, it'll probably be about this big, which is about 6-7 inches across. So I'm going to encourage you to continue on with the increases of the singles with the doubles up to a completed row of 7 singles and a double. And I will meet you there. So please pause your video. This will take a few minutes. Well, that didn't take long, and it did turn out to be as big as I thought it would be. So before we move on, let's enlarge the loop on our hook, and let's go ahead and sew in the tail for the magic circle before we forget. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is, you see where it comes out, and we've already pulled it tight. Let's go around in the middle of those stitches the best you can. Doesn't have to be exact. One more time. Okay, that'll help hold that. Then what I like to do is I come up to the next row and just go through the middle of the stitches over a few. And then you'll notice that there's 2 right here. So go over 1 and then come back through. If you go through the same place you came out, it'll come out. So, and then we want to stretch it a little bit, and then we can cut it. And that completes the weaving in of our magic circle. So continuing on, what we're going to do now is 1 stitch, 1 half double crochet per stitch all the way around. No doubles, no anything. So to mark your row, take out your stitch marker, place in your first half double crochet, and then take your stitch marker and go around the base of that half double crochet. We're not going to do it up here. We want to count the rows, not the stitches this time. Go ahead and lock it in. And 1 half double crochet around. And I'll meet you right here. I completed 54 stitches for that first row, noticing that this stitch marker goes with this upper part of the stitch. So right here is number 54. This also marks our row. This completes row 1 of what is called the sides of our bag. Now you can see it's already starting to curl up. So continue doing 1 stitch all the way around for a total of 7 rows. So here's 1. We're going to be starting on row 2. So I encourage you to do this for a total of 7 rows. It will stand about this tall when we're done. So please pause your video and I will meet you after 7 rows. So let's double check our row count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Where you stop at may be a little bit off if you went up like this. But the reason why is on our doubles that we did down below, we want to go up straight so that way we can start our new row. So what we're going to be doing this time is we're going to be doing decreases. So to do a decrease, yarn over, insert into the first stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, into the second stitch, draw up a loop. Okay, we have 5 loops on our hook. So yarn over, aim that hook down, pull it through. That is our decrease. Let's place our stitch marker in there. And that'll start the beginning of our new row. After we do our decrease, we'll do 7 half double crochets, and then a decrease. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This is our repeat, decrease, and 7 single half double crochets. So let's do a decrease again. This will start the repeat again. So over these next 2 stitches, yarn over, insert the hook and pull up a loop, yarn over the hook again, into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and through all 5 loops on our hook. You can see how it pulls it in. So the decrease subtracts it, but it also covers both of those stitches there. And then 7 half double crochets in the next 7 stitches. Continue with this all the way around, and when you come here, your last stitch before the stitch marker should be the 7th single half double crochet, and I'll meet you there. For our next row, we're going to be doing the same thing, starting off with a decrease and then do 6 half double crochets. Now please don't jump ahead of me because we are at the top of our bag and I wouldn't want you to place some unnecessary stitching in there. So we got our decrease. Now we're going to do 6 single half double crochets over the next 6 stitches. So I'll repeat this row, decrease and 6 half double crochets in the next 6 stitches. Continue around. I'll meet you at the end of the row. So at the end of this row, we're going to cut a yarn so that we can go to a single strand. So I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to place it on the inside, and we're going to be crocheting over this tail at the beginning of this row. So let's remove our stitch marker, and with the one strand we're going to do our decrease, oops, I hit my camera, I'm sorry. And then 5 single half double crochets. And like I've commented before, please don't jump ahead of me. We are not going to do a decrease with 4. We're going to be doing something else. So with this row, decrease and 5 single half double crochets, and then decrease with 5 single half double crochets around. Okay, and oops, don't forget to place your stitch marker in on that double stitch. So continue that all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. So now over these next stitches, we'll have 35. We're going to place 1 per stitch for 6 rows. So let's go ahead and start our first one. Half double crochet here. Place your stitch marker around the base of that half double crochet and continue with your half double crochets for 6 rows. Okay, so here we're starting row 1. I will meet you after you've completed your 6 rows. So continue on and I'll meet you there. So this is what our bag looks like after we've done our 6 rows. So to finish off this row, single crochet into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch. Let's leave a 6 to 8 inch tail, and we'll use that for weaving in on the inside of the bag. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a drawstring that will be for around the top right here. So let's start off with a 6 inch tail. Let's place a slip knot on our hook. and chain 60. Continue till you have 60, so please pause your video. So after completing 60, leave a tail. Let's go ahead and cut our yarn, and we're going to pull it through. All right, so I'm going to place this on the inside for right now. Let's go back to where our decreases are. Here's one right here, and here's one right here. That's going to be the center front of our bag. So if you come up here and then go across, you'll see that these 3 stitches here, let's see, yeah, these 3 stitches right here is going to be our center. So let's place our hook from the inside on the left side of those 3 stitches and pull the tail through of our drawstring. And then we're going to pull it through a little bit. Okay, then we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, and make sure you go in between the stitches, because when you pull this drawstring closed, you don't want it to snag your stitches. Okay, then 1, 2, 3. We're going to pull it from the inside to the outside. Okay, now we also want to find the halfway point on our bag, so let's squeeze it. Okay, so I'm going to mark this as my halfway point. So that'll tell me how many more times I need to weave it in. 1, 2, 3. Go from the inside through. 1, 2, 3. From the inside through. Okay, so we're going to do this to the other side. And so let me get you started on this one. Of course, we'll weave this in. So come over 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go into where the slip stitch hole is. Whoops, wrong way. Into the slip stitch hole. Let's pull that through. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this upper row right here. So we're going to count the single crochet, not the slip stitch, the single crochet, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sure you get in between those stitches. One, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we do have enough stitching back here. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to continue on with the other one, and then 1, 2, 3. All right, so we'll have the drawstring close. So line up your 2 knots. Let's make an overhand knot. Now before you draw it tight, bring the knot together so it lines up with the 2 slip knots at the beginning of the chain, and then pull it tight. Okay, and then we'll come inside and weave in our tail from the end of the row here. Okay, I went into the back side of the stitching. I'm going to go over one and come through. Okay. And that completes the drawstring opening and closing. And you'll notice that as we close it, well, I've punched in on the bag already, it gives it kind of a ball look, and that's what we're looking for. So let's move on to our duck bill. So with a short tail, maybe 2 or 3 inches, let's place a slip knot on our hook and chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The loop that's on our hook, we do not count. We count the completed chain. So let's skip that first completed chain and into the second one, single crochet. I'm going to pick up one part of that chain to do my single crochet in. So continue to the end of the row. We will have 11 single crochets, 1 per chain. In the same last stitch, add another single crochet, and then as we go around the curve, still in the same spot, but I would like for you to insert your hook. You see where that little loop is? Separate the two and go into the other loop. Bring your tail with you and place one more single crochet and try to go on the other side of that knot. Okay, so you can see how we separated another part of the chain. Now you see how this one comes down and we have this short one going across. We want to pick up on the short one. So we have 1, 2, here's another short one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So in this 11th one, we're going to add one more, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first one. So the knot is here. This is our skipped stitch. We're going to go into that first, looks like the V-stitch. We're going to slip stitch there. Chain 1, and this is what we have so far. So in the same stitch that you slip stitched, 1 half double crochet. We're going to continue with half double crochet till we get down here to the end of the row. we have done 11 half double crochets. So in this next one, which looks like it goes right across the end, we're going to place 2 half double crochets into that stitch. Okay, so we're going to continue around. We're going to do 1 all the way down here to the end, and then we'll place 2 and then slip stitch into that first one. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you there. So I wanted to make sure I've done my 11 half double crochets. So right here is where I'm going to place 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to slip stitch. This is part of the other stitching. Here's the chain 1. This is the stitch we want to tie into. Chain 1, 1 single crochet per stitch all the way around. And when you get done, we're going to slip stitch into the first one, and that'll complete our duck bill. So 1 single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you at the end of the row. I placed 26 single crochets around. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch, and I'm encouraging you to leave a long tail of about 24 inches. We will use this to sew our duck bill on and place the top of the nose. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some black yarn, and we're going to create the look of the separation of the duck bill. So to start our stitch, let's go to the inside. Now if you're having a hard time deciding which is the inside and the outside is the look of the nice looking stitches. The inside has that line, and it's the back side of the stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a few of these back side of these stitches. And pull my yarn through. I think I got a little too much on here. Okay, and then just place a knot to hold the end in. Then, as we fold it, bring your needle out to where the center of it is on the fold here. I think double up on that. Okay. So we're going to do what is called an outline stitch, and the whole thing is folded in half, but you only want to pick up just the top parts of the yarn. So to do an outline stitch, come over a few pieces of yarn and then come back. Okay? Pull it through. Not too tight, just enough to be snug. Raise it up. Come over here and pick up a few more stitches. And now we're going to be going across the center where we joined the 2 rows of single crochet at the beginning. So if you want, you can open it up. You can use your finger as the back piece and just come in, go under a stitch, and then see how we have a nice distance. So I'm just going to go under the next stitch. And the nice thing about having that line in the center is at least you know you're not going to create a crooked line. Okay, so make sure you raise it up. Look how nice and straight that line is. But it won't be straight for long, because once we sew our little duck bill onto our bag, we need the shape of a duck bill, which looks like a frown, unfortunately. But that's just the way they're shaped. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go straight back. And since I showed you what to do on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and pause my video and encourage you to tie it off on the inside with just a little knot like we did over here. Now, most of the time we would add a stuffing, but because this is orange, and I would rather make it so that the inside is orange also. So I'm going to take some yarn, and I'm going to kind of measure how wide I need for it to go, which for my case will be over 3 fingers. I'm going to wrap it around my fingers, probably about 10 times. And this will give it a little bit of bulk. So we're going to lay it in there. And this will be part of our fill. So as we sew it on, it has that duck bill look. Now, to find the location that we need to place it on our bag. Whoops, I hit the camera again, didn't I? Okay, so where's our center front, which is right here. We want to find the 2 decreases, and we want to find the center. So go ahead and pinch it like so. And then we're going to be placing it down towards the bottom, which if you count, okay, so here's a double, here's a double, here's the first row. So we want to start on the second row, which will curve up just a little bit and go back down on the second row. So let me place a needle in there to show you. Here's the second row. So it'll go up and over. Okay. So as we place that on there, all right, I'm going to use some needles to hold mine down and in place. And if you want to find the center of your duck bill, you can always fold it in half like this, and it should be the 6th stitch of the 11th. And then that way we can sew this on right here. So let's go ahead and get our tapestry needle onto our orange yarn, and then we'll what did I do with that needle? Then we'll go ahead and sew this on. All right, so to make this a whole lot easier, let's take our orange out, and then we can count over to the 6th half double crochet, and that will be our center. Then we can place this, here's our second row, so we want to bring it up to the 3rd row, where we can pin that down, and then bring it down to the 2nd row on both sides, pin it on both sides, and then we'll start stitching across. So let's go ahead and find our center, and the center of our duck bill, pin it up on the 3rd row, bring it down to the 2nd row, and I'll meet you there. That took a little figuring out, but I got this nice little curve that I wanted. So now let's go ahead and sew this on. Okay, so we're going to go down and come up into our next stitch like so. Let's pull it through and then go down and come up into the next stitch. And then go down and then come up into the next stitch. So on the inside you're going at an angle, but on the outside you're going straight down. And let's make sure you don't get caught up in your needle like I did. Okay, so go ahead and stitch this down till this side over here, and I'll meet you there. Take your time. We don't want this to get twisted and snagged up. Now you can see mine sticks out just a little bit, just like we want it to. So now we're going to go back, but before we do that, let's go ahead and place our little orange stuffing in. And you want the center to kind of come up just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and place my needle in there to hold it up. Let me get my metal one. I hate for it to, that plastic one to break. And then we're going to be stitching this down to here. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you after you've completed it. Now we are not done yet with our little duck bill. So go down. Let's go to the inside of the bag. And we're going to head to the top center. But what I'd like for you to do, since your yarn should be long enough, I need for you to place a knot on the end so that we can double up our yarn for our next stitching that we need to do. So let's come across here. Okay, and make sure your tails are even. And then we need to find the center like we had before. Right here's our center. So we're going to create the top part of the little duck bill. So I'd like for you to come up straight and then go back down in to the same stitch, making sure your stitching is straight, that there's no slack. Go into that same hole and then come over to the next stitch. And pull up any slack as well. Into the same hole and that same stitch we just moved over to. Can you see the needle here? Okay, we're going to go down into that same hole at top, and we're going to go over to one more stitch. So we're actually coming over center 1, 2. Now if you have ran out of yarn, you can always add more on the inside and continue doing what we're doing here. Oops, I'm just hitting everything. Now when you're on camera, you only have a limited amount of space to work with. So you see how we have this nice little coming over here. I'd like for you to do it for the other side as well. So start with the center and go up, and then come over a stitch and do it twice. Come over to the next stitch and do it twice. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you there. So I'm going to go ahead and take my safety eyes, and since we did place this in the center, right here where the decreases are, I'm going to go down one more row. And my safety eyes have the blue glitter because I couldn't find the black ones of the size I'd like. These are 20mm eyes. So I'm going to go straight across and straight down from the decrease. That looks off a little. Maybe it's the way I'm holding it. Let's see, I'm going to change it. I think that looks a lot nicer. So, to place our safety eyes on, hold your thumb on one side and then place the safety eye backing on it and then push. There you go. Did you hear it click to go past that first? It may be a little tight. If you have to hammer this, do not place this on the table. Place it on top of your work and push down. And I'll show you how that'll do. So I'm going to take this. I have it where I want it. I'm placing it on top of my crochet. And I'm going to place and press. Okay, I got to press it a little bit more. There we go. And it locks it in place. Now there are safety eye tools that you can use that are being sold on Etsy. I encourage you to look them up if you want assistance with your safety eyes. So let's place the black yarn on our needle again, and let's add some more detail to our little duck face. I have doubled my yarn. So on the back side, I'm going to be placing little eyebrows on here. So I'm going to leave a long enough tail, and I'm just going to come across a few stitches. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie it in the back on the inside. I'm going to place one on the other side as well in the same location. Please go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to the next detail on the face. So the next detail I'm going to add is the two little nostrils to help our little duck breathe. So I'm going to come up from behind. I'm going to leave a tail for tying, and I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to come up onto the other side, go down. Giving them a little character, isn't it? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tie this off, and then we'll move on to our next detail of the face. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add that little bit of hair that goes up above here. Give it a little character. So what I would like for you to do is to pull out some yarn and fold it about 4 inches in length, and then cut it. And we're going to do approximately 5 or 6 of these doubled yarns. So please make 5 or 6, whichever you choose, and I'll meet you there. On our 5th row, you can tell is the single. So here's our 5th row, and here's our first row of doing the straight stitching. So on this 5th row of straight stitching, I grabbed a little too many. Grab an orange and a yellow, and then we're going to come up. Let me make sure I get this right here. This row right here. Pull it through. Find the center. Now we're going to be cutting these, but I just wanted them to be long enough so that we could work with them easier. And let's place a square knot. Okay, so do one here, and then come up and do 3. So that way we have a little patch. So go ahead and, so we're going to have 3 here and 3 here. So go ahead and do that to these 2 rows, and then I'll make a suggestion of what I would like to see you do for the next step. Now here's the fun part. Take one of your strands, untwist it some, and start pulling the strands apart. Till you have these things going crazy everywhere. Don't let them curl back up on themselves like mine are starting to do. Literally take them and separate them from the strand. Since mine's 4-ply, I'm going to have 4 strands. Okay, let them twist up by themselves. Go ahead and do all of that. And if you can, get them to untwist all the way down to the square knot. You got all of these to do. I know, you can cuss me out later. And then I'll suggest what the next step will be. I have to throw this in here. I watch a lot of other social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and on TikTok especially they got this little song that goes do 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 dee. And that's what I feel like I'm doing, is just kind of moseying along, trying to unravel all these yarns. So turn on some music and listen to some music while you do all this. You see how cute it's becoming already? So I'll see you in a few minutes. Well, that took a little bit of time, but I tell you, by the time you got to that 12th one, You were pretty good at it. Okay, so stretch it out however long you want it. Well, let's do this. Let's open up our bag and see how long it should be with the shape of the bag. So probably going to cut it down to about there. There we go. Looks like a bad hair day, but it sure looks cute. All right. Now, I think this is super cute. What do you think? I think we're going to call him done. If you wanted to add a bow, you can make it for like a little girl. Let me see what I got here. I have like a little flower that I made earlier for something else. You know, you can always put a little flower on there for a girl. It's your choice. But I think we're done. What do you think? Cute, huh? So I hope you enjoyed this crochet tutorial on making this duck drawstring bag. I've had fun in this series so far of making the unicorn, the bee, and the frog. I also plan on doing a bunny. So come join me again, and I hope to see you in my next crochet video. So till next time, bye-bye.